Hello there and welcome to India once again. It's my third visit here in Bangalore, and I'm starting off by introducing you to one of the main meeting spaces. So this is one of the places where people gather, and we have what I can only call fascinating conversations. And here are a couple of the stars of living here, which is Gopal on the left and Kamini in black on the right. So I'm going to first of all just give you a bit of a tour so you have an idea of how things are. When I look outside, I can see that building enigmatically titled Enzyme Offices. And right next to this balcony there's a load of trees for which we are very grateful. And just beyond the motorway there, that is a military complex. So all those trees are one of the only two places I've discovered I have no access to. I can't have access to the military complex for obvious reasons. And I move along here, you can see that's the motorway, and there's the metro, which is still being built. It's in pretty much the same state as it was in when I was here in May 2024. It's Saturday the 8th of February 2025 today. I can see butterflies flying around. I can see an eagle soaring over in front of that building, and I can see more eagles, kestrels, kites and other birds of prey. And now this green is the other piece of real estate I don't ever get to experience. This is what is called a Parsi burial ground. So the Parsis are a fascinating ethnic group, and they inhabit countries such as Iran and other parts of the Middle East and Asia. And the Parsis are known for their religion, which is called Zoroastrianism. And Zoroastrianism is based around the worship of the sun god, who is called Ahura Mazda. And I'm sure you can find out more about that if you'd like to. So I don't know how well you can see them, but there are a lot of eagles flying around today. Now, there's a bit of land immediately in front of us, right behind the trees, which leads to the Godrej Woodsman Estate, which is also Parsi-owned land, and that's a complex of 4 large tower blocks with over 2,000 residents. I am here living in Godrej Platinum, which is one very large tower block. I'm not quite sure how many residents, and I'm watching 2 eagles just having this lovely time soaring, swooping back and forth towards each other. I have no idea whether I'll actually be able to capture that for you on the camera, because I'm not going to be able to do any zooming as I'm holding the tripod. So in Tenerife they would call this weather Kalima weather, because you can see that frankly there's so much dust and particulate in the atmosphere that everything is slightly hazy. And today the coldest temperature is 20 degrees, the warmest on the 8th of February, Saturday, is 31 degrees, and we're approaching midday, so we're getting towards those temperatures now. So these trees are a beautiful experience, and it's possible to have the pleasure of simply sitting in the balcony as a single eagle swoop by and watch the tops of the trees being blown backwards and forwards by the wind, which I find to be a very soothing experience indeed. Now, something I find quite fascinating is that Ahmed is very keen on bells. So that's a bell that can be rung. It relates to the Hindu faith and other aspects of life which I'm not able to really talk to you about because I don't know enough about it. On the balcony there's a plethora of plants, the most popular one being the aloe vera, which you can see there. And sitting at ground level is a really delightful way to sit. Over here we can see this plant with the beautiful flowers. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take you out of the meeting space And I will be speaking about the meeting we had yesterday, because it was about AI, and it was very interesting indeed. And I'm just taking a little look at this plant here, and I'm noticing the most delicate little blooms on there. Right, so let's just take a stroll out of the meeting space to the apartment, and I'll do my best to close the door behind me. So for those of you who haven't been on this tour with me before, I just thought I'd show you these, because at first glance what we notice is a load of, now are they Baroque, are they 18th century artworks, and then when we get a little bit closer we start to notice someone's sense of humour at play. Very keen on creative arts here. Right, so I'm going to take myself into one of my favourite nighttime and early morning places. So let's just show you first of all. So when I'm sitting on one of the chairs, it's possible for me to see the eagles swooping past, and they do actually come flying around within this zone of the apartment block. Plants are a very popular feature in many of the balconies. So let's just set this up. So this one is called Know Yourself, and it's advice I received a long time ago from some Rastafarians when I used to sit with them in the dirt reasoning, which is something we absolutely loved to do when I was there in Jamaica. And this was their advice consistently wherever I went. I'd always be given the same advice: know yourself. Know yourself. Know yourself, who you are, what makes you the way you are, what makes you like doing certain things, what issues you have, what you struggle with, what your challenges in life. Very helpful to get to know yourself. So what I notice has been happening in the online community worldwide is there has been an explosion of interest in what I would call the neurodivergent quality. So neurodivergent people include those that have been labelled autistic, ADHD, and a whole bunch of other labels. So you can see why I bothered to get the towel set up. It's so that Camille can just sit on my lap. I'll just readjust this wire to make it a bit more convenient, and sit here and have a little chat with you. So, knowing yourself. One of the things I've realised about myself, and it's been so brought into sharp perspective by my trips to India, this is my third one. So 2024 May, June I was here again in the same year, November, December. Now here I am, February, March. Saturday 8th of February, it's party night, so I'll have the opportunity of going down from Ahmed's apartment into Reshma's apartment, which is where the parties are usually held. Business meetings and smaller gatherings are held up here. So yeah, this whole thing about neurodivergency, and there's a term which I like, which is neurospicy. I think neurospicy is a good way to put it, because it gives us a bit of a hint about the nature of reality. The nature of reality is, it's all a game. If we can have this in our awareness at all times, it is so helpful. it is incredibly helpful to be mindful of the fact that everything we're doing and experiencing in the 3D reality on planet Earth is in so many ways a game. And that enables us to take on a playful approach. This is part of knowing myself, is to realise this. It's my experience from working with plant medicines for so many years. It's a message that they hammered home time and time again. It's all a game. So let's talk a little bit about ADHD, because I find that one an interesting one. So what people have done, particularly the psychological community, psychotherapeutic community, what they've done is they come up with a load of labels which simply didn't exist, and that includes autism. There was a time that the label didn't exist, and what they've been doing is they've been pathologizing certain ways of being as a human. Here's my big point. My big point is we are in the middle of a global revolution of humanity, and what's happening is more and more people worldwide are identifying themselves as being neurospicy. It's all a game. Neurodivergent, and the old labels autistic, ADHD, and a whole plethora of other labels. So ADHD has got a particularly toxic label because it means attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So there's an implication there through that label of negative, and rather more negative. So what I've done is I've been aware of this in myself only since last autumn, so only a few months have I realised it was like a huge breakthrough, especially watching I'm Autistic Now What, the wonderful Meg. Thoroughly recommend her channel to you if you're new to this subject. She's great. I'm Autistic Now What ? Is the name of her channel. So she led me down this path which made me realise that this label I've been resisting for years, autism, totally obvious, but it was, as I say, this autumn I realised ADHD applies too. So having had the time to meditate, go within and use my shamanic capabilities, what I realise is that ADHD has really got only one word to describe it, and the word is novelty. People who experience life through the ADHD neurodivergent lens are really experiencing the need for novelty in their lives. So if this label has ever been applied to you or you've seen it in yourself, the best thing you can do is to bring as much novelty into your life as humanly possible. So I'm just going to take a little sip of the local water from the river Cauvery, and all the people in India respect and worship and have a lot of gratitude for their water sources, and it's been through Ahmed's reverse osmosis filtration system, which means I don't have to worry about getting any gut issues from any microbes in the water because they've all been removed. So yeah, when you understand that ADHD is actually simply needs novelty, things start to make so much more sense. And there was a time I actually used to live in 3 places at the same time when I was going through an extremely challenging time, which was that the woman I'd married, she died of cancer, and in the years that she was going through a difficult process, I needed to be in more than 1 place at a time, and for another reason I needed to be in more than 2 places at a time. So I used to live in 3 places, all in England, and I was never more than 8 days in any one place, and I lived like that for a few years, and it was deeply satisfying, nurturing and nourishing to someone with the needs novelty label, which I'm using to replace the label with ADHD. So really interesting stuff, worth checking it out. So find out if you're part of the humanity revolution. Are you part of the evolution of humanity, which means that these labels, you begin to realise they actually play some part in my life, to show you how many people this affects in this tiny little country called Britain. The NHS, National Health Service, actually 11 months ago they had 235,000 people on their waiting list waiting for a diagnosis for autism, ADHD, something neurodivergent like that. Now, I've never been interested in the diagnosis. I don't need one. I don't need to go to some professional to tell me what I already have worked out for myself. Thanks to people like Meg on I'm Autistic Now What, and all the other wonderful people who speak about this subject on the channels. So I'm now going to shift away from that to my third subject of this film, which is what have I been up to since I've arrived? Well, literally the first evening that I was here, because I arrived about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Well, that very first evening there was a gathering of people. I was one of the 4, and we're actually having that gathering in Ahmed's bedroom, and the conversation was very wide and very varied, very stimulating, but what we kept on coming back to again and again, because it was of such interest to us at the moment, and again, this is another interest which is very popular worldwide, and this is to do with diet, and to do with what we eat and what works best for us, and what particular supplements might be useful in order to live our best lives. And for those of you who've been following my channel, you'll be well aware that on my second visit, on the very start of my second visit, I was invited to join the beef revolution and experience beef cooked in ghee, minced beef, and I ate it, and it was like, my goodness me, I was so surprised I just went along with it without hardly any thought, and that's one of my gifts. So one of my gifts with the novelty label is I like a lot of different experiences, and the other thing is I have a very keen ability with both the novelty label and the autism label to be able to take things and make them into my special interests and study them very deeply. This is something that neurodivergent people are really good at. So if you've got a neurodivergent friend, they can be a great resource for you in terms of your life. And I know that's a function that I serve in the lives of many people. So this first gathering, we kept on coming back to the subject, and we were speaking about beef and carnivore and people that are now ambassadors for this, and a guy called Eddie, I can't remember his exact second name, but I'll make sure to put the details in the description. He's a very popular guy on YouTube, and he goes into supermarkets and bakeries and he picks up items on the shelves and he exclaims, he says, "What is this shit? Why are people eating this? This ain't any good for you, it ain't any good for your children." And he really goes to town on it and turns it into a huge drama, because he realizes life is all a game. He's choosing to see life as a game and bring this subject to the awareness of people. So I'm in the middle of what I call the Great Reset, the Great Dietary Reset, because what I didn't realize until November 2024, when I was initiating this new beef protocol, I didn't realize that my body was in a constant state of nutritional deficiency. There was always something my body was lacking. Having worked very hard and very assiduously on health and studying and researching health, having done macrobiotic, plant-based alkaline diet, vegetarian diet, so many different sorts of diets with nutritional supplements without, it was a really huge revelation to realize that the feeling that I had at times in my gut was a feeling of no matter what you're eating, you're not getting everything you need. So my research I did before I started this protocol with the beef, simply advising people as a health counsellor, which I've been doing for many years, and whenever I did the online research I was looking for sources of any particular nutrient, it came up that beef was top of the pops pretty much every time. So I had this background sense of it, but I spent so many years being free from eating meat particularly, so many years, and I now look back and think to myself, that wasn't doing me so much good, not really. And it explains why I had a very light frame and my muscle mass was very low, and it's increasing. It's been increasing significantly. The more of the beef that I eat, the more I find my condition overall improving. You can go back to other films I've made on this subject to go into more detail about that, but the main thing I want to bring to your attention is it was an evening where we were sitting down, sharing, water was provided, we had refreshments, some people smoked, some people didn't, had a really great time, lovely conversation. So one of the people in our party, our conversation, the four of us, had actually just flown in that evening from Birmingham. So I'd flown in from Heathrow that morning, and he phoned in that evening. And there are two people who live and work in Bangalore, Ahmed, my host, and his very good friend Autistic. So we had a really fantastic evening talking about all the different informations that we've all picked up through the years, working with our diets, all the different health problems people have had, and how moving towards the carnivore in general had been helpful, but moving towards beef in particular was specifically the most helpful thing to do. And it was particularly, and I can't remember his name, the guy from, I thought that was happened to me, the guy who flew in from Birmingham, could be Said, not quite sure. He made the point that he sees it as an evolutionary journey, that we end up with all these health problems, and certainly consumption of antibiotics has been a primary cause for so many people, because it's basically destroyed their gut bacteria. So there I've been eating kimchi every single day, almost every single meal, for well over 6 years, and that must have helped. But the beef helped so much more, and it was Ahmed who chipped in with a very important piece of information, which is in his research he's discovered that is one of the best things for increasing a microbiological biodiversity in the microbiome, the beef diet. And Zaid, I think that's his name, spoke about a particular product, and I'll give you the details. It might be called Myota. I'll put the details in the description again. And what he was explaining is that it's a product which has been produced by microbiologists. So as a former microbiologist, I pricked up with great interest and took copious notes, and he's explaining that 10 years of research and development caused this particular microbiologist to work with other microbiologists to produce a source of fibre which doesn't contain the lectins or the oxalates or the solidins. So lectins, oxalates and solidins are simply 3 examples of substances which a lot of plants contain. Different plants contain different ones, and all of these are designed to repel animals from eating too much of the plant. And if you eat too much of the plant, then you're going to have problems, which is why people are having lots of problems with their digestion. And as we know, the brain-gut link being what it is, the digestion affects the microbiome, the microbiome affects the cognitive abilities of the brain. So the way to become smart is to take the protocol which enables you to eliminate those plants from your diet for a period of time, give yourself top nutritional status through such things as the beef protocol, either cooked in ghee as I've been doing, or cooked in coconut oil. So Ahmed's been practicing all this for 120 days. So the big objection comes, well, animal food doesn't contain vitamin C, so how on earth do you avoid scurvy? He's got no scurvy symptoms. There's a simple conclusion. We've been led up the garden path on this one. We thought that we had to have vitamin C sources because we couldn't produce our own. It seems when you remove the plants from the system, you actually end up being able to cook your own vitamin C, because he's got no scurvy symptoms whatsoever. So it seems to be a done deal there. So we went into this in a lot of detail, but the main point Zaid was making is this is a process we go through, and when we come out of the other end, we'll be able to eat far more freely than we are going to be choosing to do at the moment. It's simply a process we go through. We nutritionalize ourselves to the max, which then enables us to do fasts. If you fast from a position of nutritional fullness, it's not the same as fasting from a position of nutritional deficiency. If you're deficient in various nutrients before you start your fast, it's going to be a challenging experience. If you start off nutritionally full, it's going to be fantastic. It just worked out. Shortly before I left India in December, I went into spontaneous 24-hour fasting with a world of good, very easy, straightforward, no real effort involved. Shortly before I left England, so I've been keeping on the beef while I've been in England, same thing happened. I simply woke up one morning, don't want to eat, don't eat, didn't eat for a day. Growth hormone production and stem cell production, that's what you get when you do these fasts for 1, 2 or 3 days. A huge increase in growth hormone and stem cell production, which enables the body to literally heal itself. Whatever is toxic in the body is literally eliminated through the production of these two things, growth hormone and the second one, stem cell production. That's it. So I had a thoroughly enjoyable evening with the guys, and that was my very first evening. We talked about a variety of other things. We like to talk about Trump and what's going on in America and contrast it with what's going on with other countries, and a whole host of other things we talked about too. So I'm going to draw this first film of me being here in India, because I got my hints. Kamini's got off my lap, so that's my cue to get up, which I will now do. And thank you very much indeed for being with me, and I may see you again on more films that I make about my experiences here in India on what has become my third visit, and I'll be here for a month again. So all the love to you, and always in your comments, always welcome to subscribe. I'm going to create a dedicated dedicated playlist which will give you the ability to access all the films from India all in one section, one playlist. Okay, all love to you. Thank you.